is the Rebel Author Podcast, where we talk about books, business, and occasionally bad words. Hello, Rebels, and welcome to episode 261 of the Rebel Author Podcast. Today, I'm talking to Petra Tayler all about project managing Kickstarters and my Kickstarter in particular. To the comments on Danny Abernathy's episode that was not meant to be about the Enneagram and ended up being about the Enneagram. So a couple of comments. One from a gentleman on the blog, so my website where I post these up. Quite a long comment, which was really, really lovely, and just basically saying that they like hearing me squirm when the Enneagram is so accurate, and some very kind comments about the podcast and just the things that I said on there. And also a very funny comment about not reading my books because they're not into romance or what do I call it? Smut. Yes, I do, darling. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. And then Matt Goodall said, fantastic, 8, your 8 pain, 8 is 8 hour, 8 pleasure, 8. I hope I said that right. Made me giggle. Oh. So in personal news and updates, I am completely broken today. Yesterday evening was the launch of my second Kickstarter, and holy fucking shit, it absolutely blew every expectation I had out of the water. So in 94 minutes, I beat the whole total of the entire Kickstarter campaign for the first one that I did. So as of this morning, it was on 35,000, and I think as I look at it right now, it is on 37,199 English pounds. What the fuck? Like, what? What? Are you joking? Like, what the fuck? I don't even know what to say, because I'm like so humbled, and yeah, I don't know. I'm actually exhausted, which I think is the adrenaline come down and the kind of, adrenaline and dopamine come down. I did a live kind of launch. I think I was only live for about 40 minutes, but it was wild. It was so fun. And obviously everyone was there seeing me kind of react to the first few minutes. But fuck me, I am absolutely a shell of a human today. I'm struggling to be verbal as well because I'm so exhausted. And of course, the timing of this is not great. I always seem to pack loads of stuff in the same week. So I've got to teach a class tomorrow night. And I'm also trying desperately hard to finish a book this week. So, and I've been incapable of working. So that is a lesson learned for me, that as Little Miss Competition, I'm going to have to block in a day off after a launch, because I'm just too overwhelmed with gratitude, with the adrenaline come down, and the loss of dopamine suddenly. Yes, this week is going to be me teaching, hello Duchess, she's just climbed on my desk, me teaching the Sex, Sweet and Spicy Patreon masterclass, and then it will be me mostly finishing this third vampire book and promoting the Kickstarter. Right, the Rebel of the Week this week is Sasha Wasley. I hope I said that right. Wasley? Could be Wasley, I'm not sure. Okay, Sasha says, my grandmother was an unusual woman. I've researched her life recently and found on the Australian digitised newspaper collection that she was a bit of a writer too, often winning or placing in local essay competitions. She lived in a very small farming town in Western Australia, Wheatbelt, in fact. I happened to set one of my books there. She would have been a teenager in the 1930s, and of course, living in a small farming town, the social scene would have been quite conservative. No women in pubs, quit your job when you get married, vote the way your husband votes, and of course, you only wore skirts and dresses. Then I learned through family history that my nana was the first girl in town to make and wear a pantsuit for herself and her friend. Oh my God, I fucking love that. And that she and said friend modelled them by walking down the high street. to the gasps and dismay of the townsfolk. That's hilarious. This small rebellion was probably the 1930s wheat belt town equivalent of Janet Jackson, Justin Timberlake's Super Bowl moment, and I'm so damn proud of her. I absolutely love that. For me, it is the small rebellions that are just so magical because they're empowering. Like, how bloody empowering must that have been? And also the balls on her to do it. Like, it's just incredible. So thank you for that. I absolutely love that. And you do know that I love a grandma story, a grandma rebellion. So absolutely banging story, that one. If you would like to be a Rebel of the Week, please do send in your story. It can be any kind of rebellion, something big, something small, or something in between. You can email your Rebel story to Becca over on rebelauthorpodcast@gmail.com. New patrons this week, we have Jacqueline Haley and Sasha Wasley. I'm really sorry if I have butchered that. Please do let me know how to pronounce it. So an enormous thank you to both of you and to all of my existing patrons. If you would like to support the show and get early access to all of the episodes, as well as bonus content, you can from as little as $2 a month by visiting patreon.com/Sasha Black. Hello and welcome to the Rebel Author Podcast. Today I'm joined by Petra Tayler. Petra is a business strategist for indie authors, specialising in operations and Kickstarter campaigns. She is an organisational queen and master of research who spends her days helping neurospicy authors to get shit done. She has ghost-written billionaire, cowboy and rockstar romance, has her own Bridgerton meets Vampire Diaries series, and is a geek for all the nitty-gritty business side of authorship. She lives in Suffolk, England, with her son, husband, and a daft tennis ball-obsessed cockapoo. Hello and welcome.
Hello. Nice to see you again.
I know. We must stop meeting like this. So for listeners who don't know, Petra is part of the team. She's part of team Sasha Black and has been pivotal in getting this Kickstarter ready. Like, literally, it would not have happened without you. So let me kind of first start by publicly saying thank you so much, because oh my God, like, couldn't have done it without you. And also you've just made it so much better than I could ever dream to have made it. So I appreciate you. I appreciate everything that you do. And yeah, I'm just very grateful to have you in my life. Please never leave.
It's been a lot of fun.
Oh, good. I'm glad it's not all horrendous. But okay, so do you want to tell everyone, like, before we dive into kind of the fun side of Kickstarter, do you want to tell everyone a little bit about you? Like, what's your journey? Like, who are you? Like, start from birth. No, I'm kidding. But tell me how you got to where you are.
Yeah, so I had probably quite a I think the thing I've been thinking about a lot coming on the Rebel Author podcast is the fact that I've had quite a traditional trajectory of life. So I did all the good girl things, like, you know, went to university and thought I needed to get a proper job and put all those things of dreams of creative writing and all that kind of stuff to one side. And then it was when I had my son that I thought, like, I love business. I want to be doing something for myself, doing something flexibly. And I started kind of dabbling in doing more writing, started the ghostwriting, started helping some other authors with their projects and managing things for their businesses. And yeah, it was just that kind of grew and gave me time as well to write my own stuff. And yeah, just got to the point where I have not unfortunately, but I've got a lot of great author friends who now need my help, which is very nice.
Who literally can't live without you.
Yeah, that's the situation we've got to, isn't it?
Pretty much, literally. Oh, I love it. And okay, so like, why Kickstarter? Why do you love? Before we dive into what Kickstarter is, like, tell me why you love Kickstarter.
I love it because it's so creative. I love that you can create amazing projects. You can make the most beautiful books, because that's what we really care about. Obviously, Kickstarter's got so many other things you can fund, and I think we were both saying that we now use it as a bit of a shopping platform to look at other things. But just the amount of amazing things that people are doing just so creatively, I just love it. I love the opportunity to find new authors through Kickstarter. And I think there's just so much variety. You'll find an author on there who's done an amazing campaign, got beautiful books, and actually they're not a huge author, and it's just another way for them to reach new people and to really make something they're proud of. So yeah, I just love that. And I love seeing people succeed with it, because it can be, you know, you don't have to be a huge author to have great success on Kickstarter. And I think that's really exciting.
Yeah, so we both, well, you kind of brought it to my attention, but we've been drooling over a debut author who
Yeah.
has made, what, 70 grand or
Yeah,
something
she's
on
over
there?
70K now. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like maybe we should put, like, will it still be live next week? How long has she got left on the
I
campaign?
think it will be. Yeah, I think it's still
Okay, so
live
let's
next
put the
week.
link to that in the show note because share the love and all of that.
Yeah.
Because she's incredible. She's got this amazing designed campaign and amazing video, and she's just absolutely smashed it out of the park. And I think like that's one thing that we really need to reiterate to people is that you don't have to have a giant platform to make it work. Um, I do think she used a company though, so we probably should
Yeah.
caveat it with that.
Yeah.
She
Yeah, she
did,
has used a company that manages and promotes Kickstarters, and
yeah,
she has had a pretty successful following on social media. So it hasn't come from nothing, but
yeah,
she is still a debut author. You can't take away from that. This is still her
yeah.
first book. So yeah, it's really exciting. Her name's
Okay.
Ivy Ophelia, by the
Oh yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah, cool. I couldn't remember. I'm terrible with names. Okay, so what is Kickstarter for those that like missed the memo? And we have got a couple of other episodes, which I might try and put some links to those. But I think this is going to be a different kind of episode talking about
Yeah.
Kickstarter. So yeah, let's start with like, what is it? How
What is
does it
it?
work?
Yeah, so it's what the terminology is. It's a crowdfunding platform, which basically means that you, as a customer, are giving your support to a product that hasn't necessarily been made yet. That's sort of the whole idea, because these are campaigns that need funding in order to get made. So that's why it's different for authors who are looking for special editions, because often when you're an indie author, you cannot afford to do a huge print run for amazing books when you don't know if you've got readers that are going to buy it. So that's why Kickstarter is so amazing, because you can get those funds up front from your readers and from people that really love the idea of your books. So yeah, that's basically how it works. You're pledging your support for an idea, you love the idea of a product, and yeah, then you help bring it to life. And I think that's something that really appeals to people that use the Kickstarter platform, is that you are part of it, you're part of the journey. Without your support, this amazing product would never get made. So I think that's a huge appeal to a lot of people being involved in something.
And it's also why the expectations of Kickstarter buyers are so different to like your average reader, because you are pledging money to help bring a project to life, which means the project is not finished yet.
Yeah,
So the
exactly.
timelines are considerably longer on Kickstarter than they are for the average person. And even like that, and just one of the things that you said about being able to do those special things but not have the funds. That's why I did the first one, because I didn't have enough money to buy and commission beautiful artwork that was not safe for work. So yeah, I mean that's literally why I came to Kickstarter, is because I wanted the saucy artwork.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
couldn't afford it at the time. Okay, so I think one of the things that happens in the indie community is that somebody does something new, and then a few really big names will go and do that thing. And then everybody thinks that it's saturated and that's it, it's over, it's done. Nobody can do that thing anymore. Do you think that in 2024, late 2024, that we've missed the boat? Has Kickstarter had its day? And if it hasn't, do you think that all authors should consider it? Do they need to be established? I guess, yeah, kind of talk to me about the strategy behind Kickstarter in 2024.
Yeah. So no, not missed the boat at all. It feels, I know what you mean, because if you're in any kind of indie author community or writing sphere, you hear Kickstarter being bandied about a lot. And I know that for a lot of authors, it's on their radar of something that maybe they should be doing. But when you hear so many people talk about it, it can feel quite overwhelming. It's not saturated at all. There are so many campaigns running, but they're very diverse, and there's a very low percentage of people that are actually being really successful at it, because potentially they haven't quite understood what Kickstarter is. So if you've really taken the time to understand it, it's a fantastic platform. It's not, you haven't missed the boat at all. And I think it is for everyone. I think if you are an author with a very small following, then there's a different strategy that you need to employ in order to be successful than if you're a huge name with loads of newsletter subscribers, loads of followers on social media. It is a different thing. But it's still, if I take my own stuff, for example, it was my first book and I put it through Kickstarter and raised about £1,500. And that was a really modest thing, but it was really exciting because it was the first thing I'd written. Nobody knew who I was. It was just people that liked the idea of the book. And I've then run a second campaign, and that got to nearly 5,000. So there's growth, and that's really exciting. And I think when you can see that happening, you realise that there's huge potential. And then obviously there's people like you that are smashing it out the park. And Katie Robert is someone we talk about a lot because she's a huge author that's doing amazing things on there. But it's not too late. You haven't missed the boat at all. And I think it's just one of those things that's only going to grow. And I think now is really the time to get involved if it's something that you're interested in, because it's such a cool platform. And
I think Katie Robert is doing a gigantic service to all indie authors everywhere, because they're teaching readers at large what Kickstarter is like. And I don't know about you, but I often find, like, with our marketing of this Kickstarter, and this is what reminds me that we're still so early in Kickstarter, we are still having to educate readers about what Kickstarter is. I've lost count of how many times I've had to explain what a Kickstarter is. Even now on this second campaign, people still are in the DMs every day emailing, what is Kickstarter? I don't understand. And I think when you are also kind of in a production machine where you have books coming out wide on your Shopify, on your, here, there, and everywhere, it's a lot for readers to understand what you're doing. And, we have had some confusion this time, which I think is, a lesson for us about when things are launching, because obviously book 3 is also on pre-order. And so people are like, well, hold on, do I need to back the Kickstarter to get book 3? And so, a lot of what we're doing is still educating readers, which tells me that, it's still early. There's still, so many people just discovering Kickstarter. The amount of people, everyday people who don't even know what Kickstarter is, just shows you how much opportunity there is, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk about doing a Kickstarter then. And the fact that there's some really cool shit that people put on there. Where do people start planning their Kickstarter? Before we I guess I'm asking about the planning, because this is where your expertise lies. Like, how does somebody approach it? Because it's so overwhelming to even be like, okay, I've made the decision, I'm going to do one. Where do they start planning? How do they start their research? Where should they be looking for stuff to kind of help them make these decisions?
Yeah, I think the first place to start is with your own decision about what are you actually going to put on Kickstarter, which sounds a really trivial thing to say, but are you planning to launch a book through Kickstarter, or are you going to run maybe special editions for a series you've already completed? I think that's a big decision, and it does change how you market and how you approach the planning stage. Once you figure that out, I know that you've had Anthony on the podcast before, but there are resources like the Kickstarter for Authors Facebook group, which is invaluable. And there are some amazing Kickstarter books specifically for authors. There's 2 that I can think of straight away. Maybe we can pop those in the show notes, but they are just invaluable for anyone who's trying to figure out how to run a Kickstarter. They will literally walk your hand through it. But I think once you've figured that out, and then you're trying to decide, okay, so what is it actually that I want to offer, your best bet really is to trawl through Kickstarter campaigns and really become a user of the platform yourself. Because once you know what appeals to you, what sells to you as a reader, even if it's not maybe necessarily a genre that you would normally read, but if you can see something that's appealing about that campaign, I think that's just a really good place to start. Because when you realize what everyone else is doing and seeing successful campaigns, how they're running, it just gives you a really good starting point and makes you realize what's possible. Oh, yeah, I do. Yeah.
What kind of stuff do you back?
I backed one the other day actually that I wouldn't normally have backed. It was just because it was so beautiful, and I think that's such a huge thing with Kickstarter. It was a historical romance novel, but it had been published so that it looked like a really old book. So they'd done the same formatting that you would get from a book that was maybe published in the 1920s, and it looked stunning.
Is it quite pale?
Yes, it is. Yeah,
I think I saw that.
Yeah, and it's just lovely. So yeah, it does become expensive because you're trawling these campaigns and you're finding things that you think that looks amazing. But just see what excites you as a reader and as a shopper, and then use that to kind of form your ideas about what you want to offer from your campaign. I think the platform has grown so much even in the past year. So Cara, who you've had on the podcast before, I worked with her on her Kickstarter last year, and the things that we knew about Kickstarter then were, it was nothing compared to what we know now. So much has changed. If you have dabbled in the platform before, then it's time to go back, because so much has so much has changed, and you can do a really professional job without needing too much. So yeah, have a look at what other people are doing. That's my biggest advice.
Yeah, yeah, I back constantly. I didn't mean to back so many, but like the minute you're on there and you're kind of looking at what people do and kind of,
Yeah.
you do want the cool shit. So I mean, I back all kinds of stuff. One of the ones I'm really excited about in a minute, well, other than the fact that I backed another sapphic author on there the other day, there's a tech, I often get sucked into tech. And like, I love a cool gadget. And there's a button at the moment that I really want. And I'm like, you do not need a fucking button. Like, you are not backing a button on Kickstarter.
What,
But the
a button for what?
it will do anything. Well, you can it's Bluetooth. So like, you could have the button in your hand to take the selfie, or like for TikTok was what I was thinking. Like, so then I could have the correct screen rather than having the front screen. Anyway. I can find all kinds. Well, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, I can justify this any which way you need, honey. But the other one that I'm excited about at the moment, they've got this. I suppose it's like the free write, but like to me, it's kind of even more pared back. So it's literally like a screen on a stick, and you just attach a Bluetooth keyboard to it. And I have had the most success writing, other than writing in sprints with Cara. I've had the most success when I write not on my computer. So like on the Remarkable.
Yeah.
But the reason that this appeals to me is that I can have my ergonomic keyboard attached to it. And the problem with the Remarkable, well, it's not a problem. I love the Remarkable, but for prolonged periods of time, I do get wrist ache and hand ache. Yeah. So that becomes a problem. If I'm paring back in order to write more in the next year. So that would cause RSI issues essentially. So anyway, that's why I've backed that one. But yeah, there's so many cool things. Okay, so how do you find the cool stuff? Because you have found me some unfucking believably cool stuff for this Kickstarter. And I feel like I constantly push and corral and like push that boundary. And I'm like, okay, but next time could we do this? Could we do this? And I have no fucking idea how you're going to do it. I'm like, what do I? Yeah, I know, right? But you pull it out of the bag and you find these incredible things. So like, how?
Well, I think targeted ads are actually my friend. I think the cookies have figured out what I'm looking for and do advertise to me quite well. But yeah, it's just having an idea. So for your books, for example, there are certain scenes that we knew that we kind of wanted to have a product in the goodies tier that would kind of reflect some of the scenes that are in your book. So once you've got an idea of what you want, it's just having a good search and trying to find often small creators that are doing really cool things. TikTok is a great place, actually. I found some really cool, like, bookmarks, all those kinds of things. There's a lot of really cool creators on TikTok that are doing great things. Etsy is another one that's full of creators that are making cool stuff. And it does feel nice to kind of support smaller people that are making things. And just really having a good old trawl of the internet, basically. And I think once you've got an idea in your head, you can find pretty much anything. The internet's a wonderful thing these days.
It is, but like, I think I don't. So Chloe's really good at this. She's very good at researching. And I think some of it sometimes comes down to like the search terms. So are there like, do you have to know what you want? Or like, can you just go in and start searching? I don't know. Like,
I think you can go, yeah, I know what you mean. Just thinking about one of the products that we have in yours, for example. So we have a lovely Shibari goddess candle lady, and that was sort of a fluke. I hadn't been looking for that. I was looking for some other types of things, and that came up as kind of like a recommended option. I was like, that's amazing. And I didn't like the particular one that came up, but then that sparked a thought of, that would be really cool if we could have something like that. Like, your readers would love that. So I think it's just being open to other ideas coming from other things you find. But yeah, keywords are so important. You do kind of need to know what you're looking for to find the really cool stuff.
Which is why researching on Kickstarter makes such a big difference.
Exactly. And you get a sense of what people want by doing that as well. What people are actually backing, because what you think people might want might not be the case.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that I found really interesting with the first campaign is that I think naively, I always thought I couldn't buy from a wholesaler, right? And one of the things that I did was I brought from a Chinese wholesaler like a bunch of vibrators, and
Yeah,
I just assumed that because I was a regular person, I wouldn't be allowed or wouldn't be
yeah,
able to do that. But actually, you can go onto these wholesale websites and you can purchase just like anybody else can purchase. They'll sell to anybody. So
yeah, exactly.
don't assume that you're not going to be able to acquire the products that you want to acquire. Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. All right. How long does a Kickstarter really take? Because I think that's one of the things that people worry about is that it's going to require lots and lots of time. And I do think it probably does take quite a lot of time. It took me quite a lot of time with the first one. But like maybe how long does it take? And like how do you apportion those hours sort of across the breadth of the Kickstarter?
Yeah, I think the initial planning stage, the initial research stage, is kind of something that you're usually doing for fun anyway. And particularly once you get used to using the platform, you kind of just kind of soak all that stuff in by osmosis. I wouldn't necessarily think about that as the hours that you're putting in. But I think in order to get something that's up and running and a campaign ready for pre-launch, so pre-launch is where you have to sort of have the skeleton of the campaign ready so that Kickstarter can look at it and say that, yeah, we think that you're not trying to money launder or that you are actually trying to fund something here. And they approve it. You can then edit it at any point after that. But I think up to that point, it probably would be about 10 hours, I would say, of really just getting it all together and ready to go, the basics. Obviously, you can outsource at any point, and I think that's another thing to consider. If you've got a designer that you're working with for your cover of your books, you can always ask them to make graphics for your campaign. I did that with my first campaign because I wanted them to match the cover, and they charge me literally next to nothing because it takes them 5 minutes to create a quick banner for your campaign. So there are areas that you can outsource definitely, but it can be. The problem is I really love it. So I can when I'm planning mine, I can spend a long time doing it because I really want to find all the cool stuff and I really want to get into it. But if you're trying to just do something that's like maybe your first campaign and you just want it fairly simple, I think from kind of beginning to getting it launched, you could do it in about 10 hours.
Okay. And then how long does it take whilst it's running? Like, is there a lot of management whilst you're running it? And then maybe the same question, but for like the post-production, like the ordering of all the stuff,
Yeah,
the
I
boxes,
think
the packing, the picking, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think this is an area that is probably the one place where it's underestimated because during the campaign, I ignored everyone's advice when I did my second campaign because I hadn't completely finished the book. And I knew that that was likely to cause a slight problem for me, particularly because I struggled to write and do something big like this at the same time. And I found it really distracting, even though I wasn't having a huge amount of comments or things that needed answering. I just found it distracting. I just knew that it was going on. And also because with Kickstarter, it's quite easy to you have a big spurt at the beginning, your first kind of 24, 48 hours are where you get the bulk of your money, and then it can go quite quiet. And when you want to keep seeing that growth, you keep tweaking things. What I keep tweaking things and like, okay, if I add this graphic at the top, if I change this the header, if I do this, will that attract more people? So it can become quite time consuming during the campaign. If you've got a big campaign, you're likely to get a lot of comments and questions, like you were saying, people who just don't really understand how it works but want to support it. So it can be quite time consuming. And then at the end, I don't think you can ever really fully account for how long it will take to get everything sorted, because if you've got a huge campaign with loads of different items that need boxing and picking, like that's a huge undertaking. And also you have printers and things that might not get it right first time, which is something that I'm experiencing at the moment. It should have been pretty straightforward, but I've had quite a few hiccups with just print errors that have caused a huge delay in getting my last campaign out. So yeah, I think add on more time than you're thinking, because and the good thing though to say that Kickstarter backers are really understanding and really supportive if you keep everyone updated about what you're doing. Timescales are, everyone does understand this is a product that's being kind of bespoke. It's bespoke for this campaign. So yeah. But yeah, basically a lot longer than you think is what I would say.
There were lots of things that I really underestimated. Like I learned so many lessons from the first one. For example, we have these circular embossed stickers that I was hand embossing that is going to take me hours and hours and hours this time, because although there are, at the moment, there's less backers. I have a feeling we'll end up with more backers, but there are now 2 books. So that's double the amount of stickers that needs doing. And it took me a fucking week to do the first lot.
Yeah.
And it's because I was hand embossing them like with this sort of stamper thing, but it required like a serious amount of time to do it. And then other things like we printed these certificates of authentication, to kind of add a little bit of zhuzh to it so that, they knew that they were one-offs. And I didn't print numbers. So I had to hand number them as well as hand sign them. And that took fucking forever. Like, I think it took me 3 evenings to do it. So there's little things that we learn along the way that, like, this time we will have to go with a slightly different type of printer and print them so that each one has the numbers on them and all I'm having to do is sign. And then signing the books takes so long. It took me like 3 or 4 hours to sign all the books last time. And I think it took a team of 7, 4 hours to pack all of the boxes and the books, because it is a logistical nightmare at the other end. And I don't say that to put people off. I say it to tell you that you cannot do this on your own. And, if it's a big campaign, you cannot do this on your own. And if our campaigns get any bigger, it may end up going to a fulfillment, because it does become completely unrealistic for you to be able to manage it. I don't know how big they need to be before they go to a fulfillment, but certainly, like, I'm concerned about.
We're on the verge of
it.
Yeah. And I would think for the next one, I think you made a good point though, because I think when you're starting out with your first campaign, you often don't fully know what you're getting into. And your lovely idea of embossing all the stickers, like, that was a lovely idea. But now, if now you've got 2 more books to do and a lot more backers, like, that's a huge thing. But you can't not do it because you've done it for the first one. And for some of the campaigns I've been involved in, you might not want to do something for the first campaign, but if you want all of the books to look the same, then you have to think about that. So yeah, just be very trying to think about the actual time that goes into all those things. It's easy to, I think, something that authors, we tend to do is underestimate our own time and to think, well, it's only my time. I've just got to sign, 300 books. That's, I'll just do it. But that's a huge thing to do. And of all the other things that you have to do in your running your business and writing, don't undervalue your own time, because all those little jobs do add up. And like you said, if you're doing quite a big campaign, you can't do it alone. Yeah. I can't do mine alone, and they're not that big. I have to, because I can't wrap anything. I have to ask my husband. He's really good at wrapping things beautifully, so I have to get him to wrap all the books up. Yeah, because they won't look nice if I do it.
Oh my God, that's so funny. I love wrapping. My mum's really good at wrapping. She makes the wrapping look amazing. Yeah. She can do, like, how they have like the double, like the sort of chevron. She can do all of that, and I'm just like, how do you do that shit? She wanted to do that for the first one, and I was like, no, there are so many books. We will be there for weeks. Like, we're not.
Yeah, you made a good decision there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. How do we, like, Kickstarter is a project, right? Which means we kind of need some project management. Do you have any tools or tips or tricks for, like, project managing a Kickstarter?
I'm a queen of a spreadsheet, and I think we've dabbled with some different software. If you're just working on your own, I don't think you need a huge amount more than a spreadsheet to keep track of everything. For me, the most important thing is having everything in one place where I can see it, making it really clear, keeping eyes on it. I think if you're working with other people, there are different software you can use where you can assign tasks and you can actually keep track of things in more of a project management system, like with Gantt charts and those kind of things. But I think when you're an author kind of running this on your own, you just need everything in one place. And if the one thing I would say though is, if organization is not your bag, then ask for help from somebody, because there is so much that goes into it. And the problem that I have seen some creators fall into is they don't keep on top of it, and then you start annoying backers because you're not keeping them updated, because your head's all over the place and you can't really remember where everything is. And yeah, if it's not your strength, then you either have to really double down on the organization and make it work for you somehow, or you need to ask for help, because it's one of those things that can just spiral. And then like we've talked about, you're trying to remember, I need to order these 12 different things for just to put in a, just not even the actual items, but like stickers and cellophane wrap and like all those things. There's so much that goes into it, and you can't hold all of that in your head. And yeah, I know that there will be people that will, project management will be their apps, they'll love all the bells and whistles of like a fancy software. But for me, you can't go wrong with a spreadsheet.
Yeah, and just like kind of talking about the content of those, this is like, and we're laughing about the cellophane, but actually it is something that like I did in the first one and then didn't really store that information anywhere, which meant I had to go looking for it in order for us to put it in a collective spreadsheet. But actually, this is critical because it is going to be the backbone of what we do for future ones. So it is things like any item you purchased at all. One of my favorite tabs in our spreadsheet is the tiers, because the tiers can get really confusing when you do a Kickstarter in the way that I did, which was to only release one book and then do the second half of the trilogy. So we had to do twice the tiers essentially, and have tiers for backers who were returning to us who had book one, but also people who didn't have any of the books. And so, yeah, like that was a lot. But what really helped me was being able to see each tier in a column and every item that they had in that, and everything from all the digital items to all of the physical items. And that really helps us when we then go and fulfill. And what's the other thing I was going to say? The other thing that really helps is knowing like the cost of all those items and having that in the spreadsheet as well. So like how much, because for me, the cost of the Kickstarter really comes in different sections. So you've got the actual cost of the items. So the cost to print the books, the cost to purchase the merch and swag. And then you've got the fees that Kickstarter and Stripe charge for all the charging payments. And then you've got the extraneous items. So like the cellophane that you don't think about, the bubble wrap, the cardboard that you're going to have to buy to wrap the boxes, to ship the boxes. Obviously shipping's in there, but I kind of count that in the expenses. It's all the everything else. And it's needing to account for that. So we have like an itemized a summary of everything that we've got. Yeah. And actually, because I wasn't very good at doing that last time, I've only got sort of back of the fag packet, whereas this time we're actually going to have it, so I can actually do a write-up this time of what everything costs so that we know. Okay. How do we make a Kickstarter align with our brand?
A good question. I think there's two branding areas to consider. So there's your brand as an author, and then the brand of the specific series that you're doing, whether it's one book or a whole thing. Because I think with your campaign, for example, your brand is really clear and it's really fun and it's really easy to kind of craft something around that, because your readers have a certain expectation of who you are, because you're very present on your social media platforms. They've kind of got an insight into you, feel like they've got a bit of a relationship with you. So that it's quite easy to then be like, well, Ruby Rowe is, a bit sweary and a bit like, it's very sapphic and,
saucy.
Loves all the spicy stuff. Saucy, loves all the spicy stuff. So it's then fun to be able to think, okay, so how can we bring that into this campaign? And I think you just need to really drill down into what your brand is. What is it that your readers love about you and your books? And how can you give them something that aligns with that in the best way, and in the most fun way that's going to make them think, I absolutely need that in my life. I've seen campaigns that do brilliant things where the story is set in a tea shop. So one of the things is that they have a load of tea blends that are from the story as part of their campaign. There's loads of really fun things you can do. And I think I think it's such a big question though, because author branding is like a whole, is so difficult, isn't it? Like to try and really hone your brand and then to try and translate that into a campaign. It isn't easy, but I think I would probably focus more on the branding of your story than maybe necessarily, particularly if you're a new author and people might not know who you are. If you can pull something out from the branding of your book and the themes and those kind of fun things, I think you're probably onto a winner.
What do you think purchasers on Kickstarter really want?
They want beautiful books. When we're talking about books, they want beautiful books, and you will see, because whenever you're doing a beautiful book, they are more expensive. So you're going to be automatically having a different kind of buyer. You're not going to sell thousands and thousands of them just because the price point is higher. It has to be, because you're creating something really special. But when you look at what people back, they love the swag tiers, but they have to be. And I think this is why yours has been successful, for example. Yours is really fun and different. I think people get a bit bored of, they don't really want a mug and a t-shirt and those kind of things. They want something that's cool and unique to this campaign. They want exclusivity. They want something that they feel like they can't get anywhere else. I think that feels really important, and feeling like they're part of something. So if you can give them something that is just for them, then that's going to help you get backers. But most importantly, it's just they want a really beautiful product, and they want something that they can feel proud to have on their shelves. There are a number of backers that are super, super backers. I don't even know if there's a word for that. The extraordinary backers that back hundreds and hundreds of campaigns. I remember on one campaign I had a lady that was talking to me on there. She had backed 8 campaigns that week alone, and they were all for really quite expensive books. So there are people with money to spend and that want to invest in books. So you need to give them something they can't resist by making it pretty.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important thing for indies to consider, is that this is not you producing another book for Amazon that you're going to charge $4.99 on. That is part of your business structure, but this can be part of your business structure too. And so somebody said on the live, I can't afford the swag tier. I'm really sorry. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. This isn't here to make you feel bad. This is here because it's the only way I can create a premium product and put a premium product into the market. What I want is, we hear people saying, oh, you should only create premium products. Well, maybe, but for me, the Sapphic community doesn't have enough content as it is. And so I want to be able to produce stuff that can go into libraries and people can get for free, or KU, which is, sort of the lower end of cost, because it's essentially a library system. I've got free reader magnets all the way up to hundreds of pounds worth of premium, high quality books. And sure, not everybody can buy them, but they're not for everybody. What I want to do is to be able to provide something for everybody, if that makes sense. And that's what I think so magical about this and so exciting, is that we can do that. And even inside the Kickstarter campaign, we've got a digital tier at 15 quid, so people can get bits of everything all the way across. The other thing, I had an idea for something. I mean, I don't know whether, do you know what I would really like to do? In Fairy Loot,
yeah,
they have a letter from the author.
Yeah,
I want to do that.
That's really nice.
Yeah, let's do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to handwrite it. I don't know what we'll do. Maybe scan it in somehow and then print it on nice coloured paper. That's not on the campaign, but I just want to add that to the box.
Yeah,
can we do
really
that?
Lovely.
Yeah. Okay, let's do that. All right.
We'll see how your hand is after signing all those books.
I know. Maybe I'll write it now.
Yeah, do it now.
Okay. All right. How the hell do you market a TikTok? A fucking Kickstarter is what I'm trying to say. I'm so tired this morning from the come down from yesterday. How do you market a Kickstarter? How do you actually bring people to Kickstarter? How do you promote it?
Yeah, I think what you said earlier about people not really knowing what Kickstarter is, that is part of the battle, because if you are an author with a readership, you're going to be having to try and bring people along for this journey. You really need to try and make it as clear as possible what Kickstarter is through your newsletter, through your socials, and get people excited enough that they want to take the time to understand it, because it is reasonably straightforward if you're, fairly tech savvy. But for some people that is just quite intimidating, and they find something new like that a bit overwhelming. So you need to make it as irresistible as you can by flooding them with lovely pictures and teasers and things like that. But also, like you said, Kickstarter, it's still fairly underused platform. People don't really know it, and we're still trying to figure out what the best way to market Kickstarters are. Some people have a lot of success with adverts, with paid ads. Some people don't. It is a bit of trial and error, but I think something to bear in mind if you're a new author as well, who maybe doesn't have a huge platform, because you don't need to have a huge platform in order to fund your campaign and to have success. There are a lot of people who use Kickstarter and look for campaigns. So trying to make your campaign as great as it can be, so that Kickstarter will help you with some of the marketing. If they pick up on it as a campaign that, I got projects we loved for both my campaigns, and they were really small campaigns. They didn't do huge things, but Kickstarter saw something of value in them. which they then help to promote. So don't feel like because you haven't got a huge platform that's a barrier, I would say. But yeah, it's just trying to entice people and get across that barrier of they don't know what Kickstarter is. So try and make it as easy for them as possible to understand what it is and why they should want to take the time to look into it.
Do you think there are any mistakes that newer people coming to Kickstarter make? Have you seen any mistakes sort of for indies are making?
I've actually had two people approach me when campaigns were running because they've seen that the campaigns that I'm involved in are doing well. So they've approached me and said, can you look at mine? Something's not working, just wanting some advice.
I hope you're charging them for those consulting sessions.
Well, this was just from creator to creator. So no, but they were both showed things that you see time and time again. One of them was for somebody who was treating it like a GoFundMe platform, and that is something you see all the time. GoFundMe is not the same as a crowdfunding campaign. GoFundMe is, you'll see these things for people who are trying to raise money maybe for medical treatment or something like that. That's not what Kickstarter is. Kickstarter is about trying to create a beautiful product. So I had somebody who had unfortunately been taken in by a vanity publisher and paid them a huge amount of money to publish their book, and were trying to raise money in order to buy their rights back. And they'd set a huge goal because they needed that amount of money in order to buy their rights back. But it wasn't going anywhere. As lovely as the campaign looked, the book did look really beautiful, but they needed a huge amount of money in order to actually buy their rights back. So there were two problems there. One, the campaign goal was huge, and it was just impossible because they didn't have any kind of platform. And secondly, that the whole body of the campaign was sort of a woe is me story about how terrible it was they'd been deceived by a vanity publisher, which was really awful, but that's not what Kickstarter's about. And then secondly, I had somebody approach me because they wanted to swap campaigns and thought that, might hopefully, because mine was being more successful, they might have some success too. And they didn't know what their campaign was. The campaign was, there were no pictures, it was all black and white text. And they were thinking that it would be a good fit because they were the same genre, but their genre was, they were advertising it in their spiel as a Western paranormal sci-fi horror romance.
What?
And if you
joking?
What it is, no, I'm not joking. There were about 6 genres in the paragraph. In the first sentence, it wasn't even within the paragraph. It was like, it's all these things. You don't know what you're doing then at that point. Like that's not a marketable Kickstarter. So I think the mistake people make is that classic thing of build it and they will come. That's not the case for Kickstarter. You do have to put in some legwork of trying to spread the word, and also just understanding what the platform is. It isn't about trying to raise money to, people want to think that they're part of a project raising money for something really cool, not to get you out of debt.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so maybe moving from mistakes that people have made to something we did right. So as we talk, our Kickstarter is not even 24 hours old. It is maybe like 15 hours old. And we are sitting on 36 grand, which is 10 grand more than the entire Kickstarter from the first one that I did. And we sort of beat that in like 94 minutes, which is absolutely fucking insane. So what did we do right? Why did this work? Like, what are some of the tips and tricks that we can kind of share for other listeners to have the same kind of success?
I think don't underestimate your pre-launch time. That's a really good indicator of how well the campaign's going to do. So a pre-launch period is the time when you tell Kickstarter that you've got a campaign and they approve it. It then goes into what they call pre-launch, which is where anyone can find your campaign, but they can't really see inside it. All they can do is follow it to be notified when it's going to go live. And what I have seen from other creators do, the longer pre-launch period that you have, of a few months usually is a good time frame. That just allows people to discover your campaign organically. And also there's the classic marketing thing of the more times that they're exposed to something, by the end they're just like, I just need to go and follow that because I've seen that like 6 times now and I just need to go and follow it and see what it's about. And we launched with, was it 718 followers, I think? And that's a huge indicator of success. If you can have a good pre-launch period that just gives people a chance to find your campaign and be interested in it, then I think that's been a huge part of the success. And another point, I think we can't underestimate the benefit of having really good photographs and video content that we've worked with an amazing photographer called Kate, who has done a sterling job of just making the books look irresistible and giving people an insight into what they're actually going to get. I think they're the big things. And then I cannot also underestimate you. I know you probably won't want me to say that, but you know, you as an author and as somebody who has a community of readers who love you and love your books, then you know that you can't ignore that. That's a huge part of the success of, you know, we could have all the beautiful photos in the world and have the pre-launch, you know, campaign and pre-launch for months, but if it wasn't for readers having a connection to you and to your books, then it wouldn't have happened. So, you know, you can't underestimate that. It's not just a magic wand. There's the Sasha Black factor in this one as well.
Oh, well, thank you. I feel deeply uncomfortable now.
I know you do. I can see it all over your face. I'm very sorry, but it's true.
Oh dear, I've gotten a bit hot. It's really it's really hard to swallow that when you're just a person trying to write stories to give them back to the community, you know. So, but
take a compliment.
I know it is hard. I am shocked at. I mean, I know everybody was like, oh my God, look at all the followers, it's going to do so well. And I was like, but is it, you know? But yeah, it has been honestly astonishing to see what it's done in the first sort of 15 hours or so. And I'm just, you know, very grateful to you and to everybody who's helped. And we had a little party, sort of non-alcoholic party last night, which was lovely. So that also really made it. Like, I don't normally celebrate things, and that meant a lot to be able to celebrate that one with you, because that was the first time we'd met in person as well, even though we've been working together for weeks. But also just to have Cara there, and you know, Atlas and Chloe and all the rest of it. So that was
it was lovely.
Yeah, it was lovely. Okay, so we've talked about like what's pretty and what we think purchasers on Kickstarter are looking for, but what about you? What catches your eye in a campaign? What really stands out? Because what will happen invariably with Kickstarter, just like it happens with anything, is that more and more people will use it, which is what we want, because competition creates, you know, a market, and it creates excellence. But it does mean that we'll need to do things that stand out. So what do you think makes a campaign stand out other than sort of pretty photos?
Yeah, I think you want something that looks professional. There are a lot of campaigns, the more campaigns coming up recently that look very similar, that could be one of the same. I think that's because the romance genre is obviously so popular, and there's a lot of readers that are really got in tune to having pretty books. The romance community, I think, is one that really loves beautiful books. But there has been, from what I've noticed recently, there are a lot of campaigns that aren't standing out to me because they all do look very much the same. I think what we need to do is actually find a way to make the books irresistible in a way that isn't just pretty photos. So thinking about the ways we can work with publishers and printers, whoever we're using, to have something special that no one else has, and to make it really, actually to simplify the whole thing, to make it really simple, and just to be about the books and about having the most stunning book that you can possibly imagine. There are campaigns on there for single books. One that I come back to all the time. It was a Snow White retelling. It was a fairy tale. It was for children. It was a Snow White story. It wasn't a, you know, romantic retelling or anything like that. And it got something like $300,000 because it was just beautiful. It had gilded edges. It had hand illustrated pictures, and it was stunning. And it was a very simple campaign. There was no clutter. It was just, this is this amazing book that you will want because it's so beautiful. And I know, you know, pretty pictures isn't the be all and end all, but when it's all visual, you know, you can't fall in love with a product if you can't see it and you can't get an idea of what it's going to be like. And I think trying to do something unique, not only with your story, but with how you're then presenting it, is what we're going to have to do, you know, trying to think outside the box. And I think it's an exciting time as well, because we've got print-on-demand printers who are doing more and more bells and whistles that you can make products look really fantastic. And it's just such a growing time in the industry to be able to do really cool stuff with your books. It's not impossible anymore. You know, it's very easy actually now to get sprayed edges. So then we've got to think, okay, so everyone can have a sprayed edge now. So what can we do that's going to set us apart for the next one that
Oh,
not
I've
everyone
just
can
had
do.
another idea.
Oh no!
I've just had another idea.
This is also part of my job, is reining Sasha in.
Which brings me, it's a great segue. I think listeners, because I don't think listeners realize quite how much you do for me. Like, I'm terrified to ask how many hours you did last week, but you are working a lot of hours for me, possibly because I'm like, what about this? Or what about this? So like, I think people really want to know, like, what's it actually like with working with me? Am I a fucking nightmare?
You're not a nightmare. You're just, it's just, there's a lot of communication. I think I'm very used to it because I think I attract, like, we said in my intro, like new spicy authors, because I think my skill set is that I can kind of cut through the noise a little bit and just be like, okay, so what do we actually need to do? Okay, we need to do this. So I do kind of attract that kind of author who has got a lot of ideas, which is really fun. So yeah, I think I'm lucky because I really enjoy, like, I love your business and I really enjoy it. So it's a lot of fun, but yeah, it's also intense at times. And yesterday, because I was, as you mentioned, I was at your house for our little party, and Cara said to me, she's like, "Oh, I forget you're a bit of an introvert. Did you find that a lot?" I was like, "Well, I'm not really an introvert, but yeah, it was really exciting. So yeah, it was a lot of energy. But yeah, it's yes, I think you are the person I text the most. I think like that is like, it's Sasha's number one, because yeah, we're always talking about one thing or another.
I'm sorry. I literally like sucked you in, and now I've got like claws, and I'm like, you can't leave.
Yeah. You tell me that like at least once a week. You're like, please don't leave me.
Please don't leave me. Like, I would actually die. I'm not even joking. I think I'd just implode.
But the thing is, you were doing all of this before me, so like, hats off to you. Again, another compliment that you won't like, but like, it's a lot, and you've been doing a lot. So yeah.
I actually don't know how I was doing it like before you. I actually can't remember before you, and it's not like you've been in for a very long time. But like, on a serious note, like, I am, I think how I'm feeling today, which is broken, is representative of the fact that I haven't had enough rest yet, and all my listeners are going to be like, "Ah, we told you so," because I'm absolutely knackered, and yeah, I don't know, like. I don't know how I was doing it, and I'm very, very, very genuinely glad to have you on board, because like, I think I'd be in hospital at this point trying to do everything. So yeah, I'm just gonna like quietly hand you my calendar and be like, don't allow me to do anything.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Okay. Any kind of like last big things that I guess, what have you learned? What are your biggest takeaways from all the campaigns you've been involved in that you've seen, and kind of all your experience of working in and around this area? Like, yeah, what's your biggest kind of lessons that you'd want to tell listeners?
I think that Kickstarter is a lot of fun, but it's also a lot of hard work. We talked about this yesterday, that you don't just do Kickstarter because you want to make a ton of money. It's not that kind of platform, because there's a lot of time and energy that goes into it, and you have to be wanting to create something beautiful and fun. So yeah, I would also say that Kickstarter has got so much potential, and it's so exciting. And if you're somebody who really enjoys that kind of creative way of working, then it's just so much fun. And I would also encourage people who are new authors to really explore it, because it particularly for new authors actually who are looking to try and kind of kickstart literally, that's why they've called it that, isn't it, to try and get their careers going, because we all know what it's like trying to get things funded when you're just starting out. And I think Kickstarter actually is a really fun way of actually making it exciting. You feel like you haven't just uploaded it into KDP and it's gone into the ether and it's all gone quiet. You're delivering beautiful books, and that's, as authors, what we want, isn't it? To do that. So yeah, my biggest takeaway is that Kickstarter is actually for everyone, and you just need to enjoy it. Otherwise, it can be a lot.
It can be a lot. Okay, well, this is the Rebel Author Podcast. So tell everyone about a time you unleashed your inner rebel.
I have literally been dreading you asking me this question, because like, I am the least rebellious person like you will ever meet. I have followed a very like a very probably, good girl trajectory in my life. I had to ask my husband, I was like, what is a rebellious thing I've done? He was like, I can't think of anything. The only thing that I can think of that I've done that was, I suppose, because I was always, I went to university and I got a sensible job. I think the biggest thing that I've done is kind of take a step back from that and gone, hang on, I don't want to be in a rat race. I want to do something on my terms. And it was actually really risky, like to not, I was a teacher, but before that I worked in customer services and I had a really high paying job, and I walked away from it all to do something that brought me more peace, which might seem a bit strange because, we work together now and there's not much peace, but it's peace in a different way, It's like, I'm not doing this I am doing this for you, but I'm running my own thing. And I think for me that did feel quite rebellious to actually be like, I've gone and done, like, I've got 3 degrees now, none of which I'm now using. I feel like I should be using those degrees and using them as, as my job. And I suppose I am inadvertently, but yeah, my biggest rebellious thing was, walking away from sensible careers and, going it alone.
That's hilarious. I didn't know you have 3 degrees. I also have 3 degrees, none of which I use.
Well, yeah, there we go. There we go.
So clearly we were meant to be.
Yeah. And you can be the rebel for both of us.
Yeah, I'll try. Okay, tell everyone where they can find out more about you, your books, and anything else that you want to add.
I'm now chained to Sasha, so that's where you'll find me. My books, so I write under Maya Tate. I write Bridgerton meets Vampire Diaries romance, so that's where that is. And you can find me on socials under Maya Tate if you want my alias. But yeah, at the moment you have to get through Sasha to get to me. So
I'm so needy. I would just like to add that I'm not your only client.
No, you're not.
We're joking, but not. You do have a lot of other clients. I'm just the neediest.
Yeah, you're just
well, thank you for your time today. And of course, a giant thank you to all of the show's listeners and all of the show's patrons. If you would like to get early access to all of the episodes, you can do so by visiting patreon.com/Sasha Black. I'm Sasha Black. You were listening to Petra Tayler, and this was the Rebel Author Podcast. Next week, I'll be joined by Liz Wilcox, and we will be talking all about how to level up your newsletter marketing game. So join me next week for that. Don't forget to tune in and subscribe on your podcatcher. And when you have a moment, please leave a review.